Oh. Well, hello and welcome back to Whitey's Speed Shop, home of the only speed shop without an actual shop. Today, we're going to teach you how to take your Quadrajet carburetor apart, rebuild it, reseal it, and hopefully stop it from leaking. We're going to teach you a little bit of history about these things and teach you how to identify where your carb was made by the part number on the body. So come along and let's enjoy the ride. So these carbs are found on all kinds of GM products between Cadillac, Pontiac, Buick, GMC, Chevrolet, you name it. They got a bad rep. They're called quadra junks, quadra bogs in the hot rod community, you name it. Anything you can imagine. But the truth be told, they're not that bad. They just really get a bad rep. A few reasons they've gotten a reputation, at least I believe, it's from a few things. One thing is they're absolutely hideous compared to, say, your Holly or your Edelbrock. I mean, there's linkages going everywhere, flaps going everywhere. It looks like a spaceship. So, to me, that's reason number one. Number two is on the back, or on the bottom rather. We're gonna leak a little bit here. If you look right in here, there are bushings at this shaft, and I believe this shaft too rides on, and they like to wear out and they cause vacuum leaks, making it nearly impossible to tune these things if that's the case. They do make kits, you can drill them out, you can replace them and fix them, but if you don't know what you're looking for and don't realize that's what's happening, you can sit here and tune it all day long and just be chasing your tail. So that's one of the biggest reasons. And finally, and frankly me personally, I'm guilty of this myself. I feel like people take them apart, put them back together, don't know what they're doing, and have just heard the reputation and just go with that and just assume they're junk. I don't think that's actually the case. I think they can be fixed if you know what you're doing and if you know what to look for. So that's just a few things that can cause issues with these. So today my hopes are is that we're going to clean this one up more than I already have. I started already at work, you can tell, and I'll put pictures up showing before and a little clip showing what it looked like before, but you can kind of tell that it's been cleaned a little bit in the parts washer and the ultrasonic and all that, but it can still be cleaner, and there's definitely still varnish, trash, rust, gunk, who knows, sediment, all kinds of stuff down in here. And if you watched the last video, you saw it was running and it was idling pretty good, but then it started flooding at the end all of a sudden. So I suspect either the float's filling up with gas and has pinholes in it, or the needle seat's getting stuck and it's just allowing it to come out the lid and not stay inside the actual carb. So hopefully today we're going to remedy that. We've got our rebuild kit from Rock Auto. We've got two different size fuel filters because I wasn't exactly sure which one goes to this, and it was cheap enough. And then we also got, just in case, a new float. Now the next thing I want to show you is there is a way to identify these carbs and tell when it was made, where it was made, what it came off of, all sorts of information. That number can be found right here on the body of the carb. It's right pretty much parallel with the secondaries. This big flap right here. It's going to be on the driver's side. Few things you can know about these before you even get too deep into them. The Chevrolets, the inlet is always going to be pointed horizontally like this. On a Pontiac or something else, it'll be vertical, straight out, and I believe the fuel filter's either, judging by this is the smaller one, and then there's a longer one in the Pontiacs, or, you know, all the other carbs. So I'm only going to be able to show you this for a second, but I got it all wrote down and we'll step by step tell you how to translate it. This number right here starts with 170. That's going to be the number you want to look for right there where my finger's pointing. That first one. That's going to be how we identify these things. Now that number I just showed you, I'm going to show you again. You want to look for your secondary flaps back here. It's going to be on the driver's side, right here along the body of the carb where I'm rubbing this screwdriver. I've got mine off my 78 truck, and the number is 17058213. I just showed you where it's at. And like I said earlier, the older models, I think it's 75 and up, are going to have 8 digits, and they start with 170. The earlier models from the 60s are going to start with just a 7 and a 0, and they have 7 digits. So that's one way to tell if you have an older or later 70s model. So now we're going to decode mine and see if it's the original carb or what it came off of. Now, like I said, 75 and later is going to have 8 numbers. Mine has 8 numbers, so we're close. Mine's a 78. First numbers are 170, which indicates 1976 and later, so that checks out. The fourth digit is a 5. That means it was a 75 through 1979 model. If it has an 8, that means it was an 80s model. Easy way to tell those, they typically have an electrical connection. On these, mine doesn't have it. The fifth digit is going to be the actual year it was made. Mine's 8, so it is a 1978. The sixth digit is going to tell you if it was a 4-barrel Quadrajet or a 4-barrel Quadrajet California only. A 2 is just a regular 4-barrel. 5 is a California only. Mine's a 2. And the last 2 digits, digit number 7 and 8. My last number is a 1, which means it was a Chevrolet GMC made. It can go anywhere from 0 to 7, meaning Chevrolet, Cadillac, Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, all the GM products. So far it's matching up. It's a 78 off a GMC. And the 8th digit is the transmission. Even numbers are automatic, odd numbers are manual. Mine's a 3, came out of a 4-speed truck. So that leads me to believe this is the original carb off of the engine. So that is pretty cool, and that's how you can tell where your carb was made and what it came off of. So the Quadrajet was released in 1965. It was made by Rochester and eventually by Carter too, when Rochester couldn't keep up with production. It was the successor to the Rochester 4GC, which was made from the early 50s up until the late 60s, 67, 66, something like that. The beauty behind these is your primary throttle blades, which are your smaller ones right here. They're a lot smaller than what you typically see on a square board like a Holley or an Edelbrock, like most of us are used to. The spread board design is so when you're cruising and the vacuum hasn't opened up these secondaries, these larger ones down here, I can't tell what I'm pointing at too well, but when you give it gas and it opens up the secondaries, these smaller primary blades are for more fuel efficiency. But when you get a need for the speed and want to feed it the onions, you open it up. These huge secondary blades open up, sending a huge shot of fuel, air down the app, and making it so you can jump a Coke can in the parking lot like you used to do back in '79 with your granddaddy Chevelle. Alright, now that the history lesson's over, we're going to show you where all the pieces are and how to take it apart and start disassembly. I'm going to start with the screws on the top. You've got 2 on the back by the secondaries, 2 to the side, 2 in the center right here, 2 hidden ones underneath the choke flap. Do not miss those, and don't try to pry this lid off with those still on there, you'll ruin it. And then 1 screw on the front here. So let's get those taken off real quick. And I believe it's these 2 back here, they're the only ones that are a different length, and I'll show you they're way longer, so it's easy to tell, but just so you don't mix them up. And then the 2 on the inside here, inside the choke flap. You need to be careful, especially once you go to put it back together. I say that, I'm probably going to drop it. Okay, I lied. Those are actually smaller than the one I just took out too, so we'll show you those, but they also have a flat head, so it's a lot easier to tell. Well, tapered head, really. Main thing is you just want to make sure you keep track of which screw you took out of where so you don't mix them up later. Get these took out. We need to take the all the intricate pieces, all the linkages and stuff off. Choke, accelerator pump linkage, all that. Get that took out. These center two. And those are the same length as the two we just took out. I think all of these are. That one's the same length. So the front and the center four are the same. The two inside the choke flap are smaller. Get this started out. Alright, that's what I was talking about. These back two behind the secondary flaps are really long. Then you have, if I can get these, I'm going to hold these all next to each other if I can. Your 5 main body screws, they go here, 2 here in the center, 1 here, and 1 in the front. And then you have these 2 little smaller ones, if I can get it to focus. Well, I can't, but these 2 smaller ones, they're the ones that go inside the choke flap right there. Next step, which I should have done this first, you need to take your air cleaner stud out. I said that, if I can get it to turn. There it goes. Well, it's starting to. There we go. So you take your air cleaner stud out, and then get this turned around so you can see. There's a little roll pin right there where my finger's pointing that holds this plastic arm. It's what it pivots on to press the accelerator pump right here. So I'm going to take a small, you can use a drill bit. I'm going to try this little Phillips head screwdriver, a hammer, lightly tap that out. I said I was, it's starting. So let me get this tapped out and we'll get this arm off. Okay, I had to put 3 screws back in there. I got a little ahead of myself already. I just used it to hold the body back down a little bit, or the lid to the body. I had to go find a brad nail, something smaller to get this pin. There we go. I think that's gonna be, yep. So now, as you can see, we've got that loose, and we can take that off. And now it's out of the way. And that disconnects that from the accelerator pump right there from the body. Now that roll pin's just pushed out a little bit. So now we need to get our choke assembly took loose. So let's do that next. Our next step, we've got a little keeper on this linkage arm right here we need to get off. So let's see if I can get a hold of it. There we go. That's it right there. Little horseshoe looking clip. Set that to the side. That will pull this arm. Theoretically. Maybe not. That pulls that from this. Okay. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. Now, I'm going to work this arm off. Do that. I'll take these screws back out. We're stuck in here. Real quick. Get your screws out. Get over here. here so I can see. These are the 3S stuck back in to hold the body down for the accelerator pump. There we go. Grab this last screw. Okay, that does that. It should be enough to pick this up. And then work this arm. Get back down here. There we go. That gets that arm out. Now I gotta work it out of this end. There we go. And that's that arm out of that diaphragm. Move that flap out of the way. We got another flathead screw right here. Take this loose from the body. At this point you could take the lid off. I'm just taking this off so we can clean the body a little better once we get to that point. There we go. That gets rid of that. And then you've got a rubber hose that feeds into here at the front. And that's your choke diaphragm off. Now, we should be able to take our air horn off. Now we've got this leakage that controlled everything. That just fell out. Well, the end of it did. But that's our air horn. Set that to the side. Actually, I want to show you something. And one of them did, so actually I can show you that. Right? Yeah. One of them did, or one of them missing. There should be another rod down in here. So, let's look for that real quick. Alright, now that we got our lid off, we've got our power valve. Should be like a plastic washer that holds that down. Accelerator pump. Just a spring down in here, it's pressed in. We're going to leave that for now. We're going to work this gasket off real quick. Not entirely sure why I'm trying to be careful with it, but just for the sake of... There we go. And just work it around that power valve. And that's the gasket off for the main body and the lid. Put that box down there. Alright, now lay our accelerator pump down in there. Let's see what we got down in here. It's our float. It's a plastic float. Get this plug off plate right here. There we go. And now we can see down in here and get access. Well, our needle and floats seem to be working pretty good. There is varnish and stuff down in here. I'll bring the camera over and show you the inside. There's our other rod stuck down in there too. Okay, a few things I want to show you. Number one, this right here. Let me get this screwdriver, fish this out. That rod right there, if it'll focus. It's one of the rods that goes in the lid here. That's what I was saying, there should be 4. This one was missing. They like to do that. They like to stick. So we'll stick that back down in there. There's a lot of rust and sediment in that, so that could have been our issue there. Now, let me get you on the inside of this and we'll show you the carb. Let's see how well we can get the light down in there. So there is trash and a little bit of sediment down in there. It's kind of hard to see. Another thing I want to point out, Yeah. Okay, so this should be a 700, 750. Alright, the next thing I want to show you, let me get you zoomed in here. On these Venturis here, on the inside, this is perfectly cylindrical. There would be a little notch, I think, somewhere in this general area, poking out a little bit. That would let you know that this is an 800 and not just a 700 or 750 CFM. So we do have a 700, 750 CFM carb. That's something to look for if you're curious to see how big your CFMs are on it. Next thing we want to do is get this power valve out. So we'll just pry up on that very gently. Should be, yep. That gets that out. Set that right there. And the next thing is to ever so slightly pull the float out. And then right here is our needle. It hooks into this little hole right here. And you want to pay attention to how this hook went back in. Sit down in there. Set that to the side. And we'll take another look and see if we got clogged jets or anything. And I think already I'm starting to see some. So let me bring you in again and show you the inside of the bowl. Alright, let me get my flashlight set up. So if you look down in there, all that brown, move the light a little bit, all that brown is sediment, rust, trash, dirt. It's probably clogging these jets. So now we know what's on the inside. Now the next thing, we're going to take the base plate off the bottom. And that's fairly simple. It's just 3 Phillips head screws, which one of these looks stripped already, so that's fine. So let's get started with that. I say it was 3. This one may only have 2. Let's take this. Okay, that's the one that I was saying looks stripped and it's coming out, so that's good. That's another thing I forgot to mention earlier too, the vacuum leaks. These screws right here, they like to work themselves out and cause a vacuum leak too. So it's another gremlin you could be chasing. Get that pulled out. And okay, this one only has 2. Some of them do have 3, and I think it's towards the front. Well, that's the back. Towards the front. And that is the base plate off, and that's even easier than the air horn, so that's that. I'll clean that up too. And you've got this really thick gasket for the base plate. So now throw that in our little garbage box here. Now we got a better shot of the actual barrels itself. And now we can get in here and clean up all this where we couldn't get before. So I think that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to go out and spray this off, clean it up more, and then we'll tear it down some more. Get real deep into it. Take this fuel inlet line off, and this. There we go. Oh well, I said that. That's taking the whole thing off. There we go. Now let's get this line off, and then we'll take the actual inlet, get the filter out of here, see if the filter's clogged. That, put that to the side. That's what broke loose first, not the actual inlet tube. That just screws off. Don't look like there was a filter even in here. There's a crushed gasket, so that's good. I'll lay that to the side. I'll put that in here. It's got a little sediment and corrosion in it. Put that back together. So I may just be adding a filter in. kind of concerned about that gasket though. That sucks. Because that's all smashed up. I don't know if you can see that. Alright. Now, let's get these. Where's my flathead? It's right here. Let's get these two main jets out real quick. There's one. Gotta pick. Get this jet out. Here we go. You can see daylight through it. That's one of the main jets. So there's the other one. We're gonna pick. Hook it out. It doesn't look like it's plugged either. Alright. And where do we go from here? I still need to spray out the body. We need to get the seat out for the needle. So let's do that. Let's clean it out. Get all this sediment and trash out. And then we'll come back. Alright, so I just went and did the right thing and wasted an entire can of carb cleaner. But now you can see the inside is a lot cleaner. Next thing we're going to do, let me lean over so I can see. We're going to take this needle seat out and this screw down in here. Let me get my little pointer. This screw down in here. There's a check ball underneath there. That's why I waited to take this out. I didn't want to dump it out outside and lose it. And then we need to get a flat head screwdriver with a big tip and take this needle seat out. So, let us find a screwdriver. That's not big enough. I did not bring one big enough, I bet. I have one specifically for this and didn't bring it. So that's good. So we'll take the screw out with the check ball. Fish it out. And then drop it immediately. That right there. That right there is our screw we just took out with the check ball that I pointed to. And then that little pebble that just rolled on my ring. That's our check ball. Okay, now I gotta figure out how to get this needle seat out without the proper tools. Let's see if we can double up screwdrivers and not tear this up. I already don't like how that feels. Is that one bigger? It is, but not. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this ain't in there too terribly tight. This is already slipping all over the place. Don't do this. This is very stupid. Thankfully that wasn't in there all that tight. You need to get a wide tip screwdriver that'll fit all in one go. And that is our needle seat. And then there's a gasket right down in here. I gotta fish it out for you. And that right there, the end of that hook, is our gasket for our needle seat. And we'll set that down there. And for the most part, that's pretty much it. I mean, the body is pretty much completely stripped down other than the idle screws, which is on the throttle plate down there. So that's not gonna do us any good, but that's it for the body. So we're gonna clean this up and start putting this back together. Oh man. All right, now it's a day later. I had to order the other version of the kit. I accidentally ordered the electric Quadrajet one. You need the 151037 for this, the 4MV. That was my mistake. So now we're going to start putting this thing back together. I took it outside just a second ago, finished spraying it all off. So yeah, we got our check ball. We're going to throw it in that orifice I showed you earlier. I don't have a little screwdriver out to show you. Let me get some pliers. And very gently pinch this so I have a little more control. And drop that in there. Okay. I need to check and see if there's a new screw for that. We do have our, what does this go to? Is this the body and air horn? No, this is the air horn. This is for the throttle plate. This is for the air horn, which of course we got lucky and ours is torn right here in the corner, so it's probably still going to leak. That's fine. Any who's or what's or notsers. And then our base gasket for the intake. It's blending in with my shirt. Let's see, new check ball, which I just stuck the old one in there. It does come with the plastic washer for the fuel inlet, which makes me feel a whole lot better. New clips, E-clips, and the little horseshoe clips. Accelerator pump kit. New needle and seat. And gasket and hook. Cool. And then we have an air cleaner base gasket. So, we don't have a new one of these, so we're going to stick the old one back in. Let's see, use these pliers again to drop it down in there. And this is above the two main jets that we took out. So don't mix those up. You want to make sure you know which side came out of which I got them laid out right here. Okay, it's in there. Take our jet. You can see daylight through it. It's clear. You want to blow out all your passages with air and carb cleaner. Get all the dirt and sediment out of them. Let's see if we can get this to start. And I believe we can. You want to get these tight, but you don't want to snap them off in there. Our right side jet, we can see daylight through it. Drop that in there. Crooked. Try and straighten that out real quick with the screwdriver. There we go. Sorta, maybe. Come on. There we go. Get those threads started. Like I said, you want to snug it down, but don't snap it off in there. Alright, now we need to use our kit. Put our new needle seat in there. Don't want to lose anything. So there's our seat. Clip and needle we're going to leave in there for a second. There's our gasket for the needle seat. Just slide it over the threads. It's a metal crush washer. And I did, like I said, this is a day later, I did bring my wide tip screwdriver. Hands are too big. And I dropped the gasket. Let's fish our gasket out. There we go. Put that back on. Then we're going to gently, don't want to squeeze that. You don't want to mar the side of it. My gasket fell back off. There we go. And we got that. That's our wide tip. I can't tell if it's there. It goes. I think it's focusing on my face, but we got our wide tip screwdriver this time. instead of using 2. Like I said earlier, do not do that. That was not smart. And I didn't. I should have. I may pull it back out and compare real quick. I am going to do that. You want to make sure these are the same size parts. You don't want to put something in that's incorrect. It should be right, but just to be 100%, we are going to pull it back out and verify. And they are the same size. They are designed a little different, but the size is the same. This has got like a Phillips head shape, and this one's flat head on the new one. But it should flow the same. Now we get to fight that all over again. Maybe not. I think it just fell into place. Come on. There we go. Got that started. And same thing. I'm going to take 2. Just singe it down real quick. Again, don't do this unless you're in a pinch. That's that. So now we got our new needle seat back in. We've got our jets back in, our check ball and the screw to hold it in. What will be next? What would be next? Let's see, that's our inlet. It's going to be our float. I believe we can stick our float back in. Choke assembly, where to put it? It's laying right here. Alright, like I said, you want to remember how this goes. And this is going to be difficult to show. On this float, you got your rod and there's a hole right here. That's going to be your left side hole. If you have the secondaries facing you like I do. You don't want to lose your rod like I almost just did. Wow. There we go. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to unhook our old needle, like so. And grab our new needle out of there. And there's a small little hook for these. It's going to be hard to get a hold of. Throw that in our trash pile down here. Alright. You're not going to be able to see this on camera, but you've got the smallest little hook that hooks onto the... You got one that's shaped like a hook and one end shaped like a loop. And you want to put the loop onto the needle. Get a pick real quick. Push it down. It's like building a ship in a bottle. Not that I know what that's like. Never done it. Oh me. There we go. It'll snap into place. Then you want to grab your float. You want to hook it towards the inside of the hole. Like so. There we go. And then you set your needle in your needle seat. And then that sits down in there. Bring that closer. That sits down in there like so. Cool. And that is that on that. All right. I reset the camera. I wanted to bring it closer, show you everything we just did. So I have to lean forward so I can see. We got our float in here, our needles hooked in here. Let me look. Right down in there is our check ball screw, and our 2 jets are in here. So now we need to put our meter and rods back in and stick them into the jets. So we're going to do that next. Got it backwards. There we go. Okay. Let me get up on my knees so I can see what I'm doing. So you want to get these rods down into your jet holes. That one's in. That one's in. Right? Oh, that one's in, but that one is not. Come on now. Go back down in there. There we go. Oh, well, shot right back out. You'll know once it's down in there, it'll be flat like so and have a little spring to it. Like so. And you want it to have that movement. It's what lets the fuel go through the jets. Okay, let's see. We got our float cover. Stick that back on. And it just slides into place. It's in the shape of the carb body, so you can't really mess that up. Meter and rods and power valve are in. I believe we can stick the air horn back on now. Let me make sure. We got our check ball, some clips, accelerator pump. Yeah, it's time to stick the air horn back on. Alright, so now let's take our new and already broken gasket. Actually, let's see if we can do this little dance with the meter and rod again. Alright, you got 2 dowel pins towards the secondaries here that your gasket slides on. And then if you're dumb like me, you put it on upside down, so you gotta flip it over. You wanna be careful not to tear it, even though it's already torn. There we go. There we go. That looks more like the shape. There we go. And you'll know you got it right because you got your accelerator pump hole here and your mounting screws. And we're going to stick our meter and rod back in. Hopefully we can get it to go back in. That. Alright, let me take this back off and then we'll figure it out from there. Alright, I remembered how to do it. Right here where the power valve is, this gasket piece, it's perforated to make into a flap, so you want to get your power valve started first like we had it. And then line up with your dowel pins. And that'll hold everything down. And did I put... No, I didn't. And I didn't put this back in. So you want to drop that back in. And that is your air horn gasket on the main body. Make sure your power valve is springing. Okay. Now let's see about getting all these to line up. Let's see, that's our secondary. And we get to do a little dance. All these dangly bits. We're going to throw that off for now. There we go. And I didn't do it. There we go. I'll show you in a second here. Those metering rods that were dangling there. This screw right here, this flathead screw right on top of the secondaries, that takes that loose. Now let's figure out what we're catching on. Turn my light on. What are we hitting? Is it our power valve? I can't tell. There we go. And then you just kind of aimlessly wiggle it around until it falls into place like that. Okay. Next, we're going to replace this gasket on our accelerator pump. Turn this light off. There we go. There's that. And that should just peel off. I believe. It looks like it. We'll take this pick. It's got 4 little ears holding this on. So we'll just kind of take that and twist it off real quick, like so. Here's your old gasket. Again, you want to compare with your new. Looks the same. Stretch it over if I can. Got it over 3. That one's hooked, that one's hooked. Oh, right when I went to push it on, that's got that stuck on there. And now I'm realizing this had to be on first. So now we gotta take the air horn back off. Oh me. Like I said before, I've only built a couple of these. Oh. Now which way does this orientate? It goes like this. Right? Or should I go like this? I believe it goes like that, if I remember correctly. Let me make sure that's how that goes before I do that, and then we'll confirm it and show you. Okay. I had to go back and look and make sure. Watch the old footage, but that is how that goes in. You want the long end sticking out. Mine is not wanting to stay down, so let's do the dance again with all these needles. Here we go. That lines up with that. That went on 10 times easier than it did the last time. And you want it to sit like that, that way it's spring loaded and you got this shaft so your arm hits it, sits on there, and your throttle pushes it down. Alright, now is that everything for the air horn. We got our flap down here we can hook back up in just a second. I believe we are good. So now, let's start with putting the screws back in. Remember your long ones. We can't do that. We gotta put our base plate on first. Forgot about that too. I'm doing this all kinds of out of order. So, we're gonna flip that over ever so gently. Get our base plate ready. gasket. There we go. Flip it over the correct orientation. This has dowel pins as well. It doesn't really want to slide on, but it does have dowel pins. There we go. Got that one started. You want to push that one down, get it started. And that's our base plate gasket. And then the dowel pin should line up like so. And you got your 2 screws you took out. These were Phillips head for me. So that's how we're going to distinguish those from the others. And then I need to get my screwdriver out of my pile over here. Get that started by hand, then go with the screwdriver. Make sure you don't strip anything out. Mine only had 2. They do make them. Some of these will have 3. I think they're towards the front here, or maybe in the secondaries. I can't remember, but something to be on the lookout for. This is that stripped out head. We're gonna be as gentle as possible on that one. And you want to get these tight because, like I said, they do like to back out and they'll cause a vacuum leak too. You don't want to be chasing that. Okay. I'm going to stand up so I can get pressure on this one. Okay. It's just enough to be uncomfortable. Alright, and that's the base plate back on, and then all of a sudden it's starting to look like a carburetor again. Alright, now take our long screws. Now that has something to screw into. There we go. Usually I like to spray the threads with WD-40 because these carburetors, any carburetor, they're usually really fine thread. We're not going to snug these down all the way. We're just going to get them to go down enough we know they're starting good. And then we'll tighten it in a pattern here in just a second once we get them all started. Alright. The only other 2 screws that are different, if I can get them to focus, these have canonical heads. And your other 5 body screws are squared off like that. And these 2 go down in here. Well, I say that. These 2 go down in the primary. Yeah, and you'll see it. It's beveled out for these cone-shaped heads. Turn my light on again so I can see. Careful not to try not to drop these down in there so you don't have to do like me and take it apart 17 times. There we go. There's that. Turn my light off so I'm not blinding the camera lens. Alright, those started real easy. And that should be the only 2 screws, or 2 sets of screws. There's 4 in total. Those are the only screws that are different from the rest. The rest of them all the same, and they go in the perimeter. 1 in the front, 2 on the sides, 2 in the center right behind the choke flap. Get those started by hand. Get that one started by hand. And our last 2. I can't really get my hand behind this. It's going down easy enough. Not worried about the threads. Alright, now I'm gonna do, I don't know if this is the correct way. I'm gonna do the outside and work my way in. So we're gonna do our front screw, 2 side screws, well, 1 side screw, then we'll do a back screw. And I'm not snugging it down, I'm just getting it to where it feels firm. Go in the back here. Go to our center 2. Center 2 behind the choke. And then our 2 canonical screws right by the venturis inside the choke flap. Okay, now we'll snug everything down. Like I said, there's probably an actual pattern to this. I'm just trying to go in a shape it'll seat right, not sit crooked. Okay. And then our 2 canonical ones. That's that. All of a sudden, in a short amount of time, it's pretty much put back together. All we got left is our choke linkages and our accelerator pump linkage and the roll pin, which I'm going to see if I can get this roll pin out. It sends you, in the kit, it sends you a new one. Let me see. So we're going to see if we can replace that. And I'll come back. Alright, now I got some food in my belly. We can finish this thing real quick. So next we want to put on our diaphragm for our choke. I'm going to turn this so I can see what I'm doing. You got your hose. It goes in right here to this port, and your screw that goes into what I believe is right here. So I'll show you that. Your screw and your diaphragm in there, your hose in there. Let's piece this back together real quick, like so. And then I gotta move these arms out of the way. I think I just showed you the wrong one. I did. And I gotta get this other arm situated. Alright, let me get these arms situated real quick, and then I'll show you how it goes all together. Alright, now that I've gone back and watched what I did, I forgot to grab this clip. Okay, now this arm, we've got to have this actuator hanging on, and that clip, I've been calling them horseshoe clips, clips onto this end of the arm and holds it onto the choke flap right here. So now I'm going to flip this over like so. See if we can guide this down. Okay. Now off of there. Take a screwdriver. Actually, I'm going to take this pick, reach inside the side of the body here. Let's see if I can grab a flap. Let's see if I can pull it back out. Alright, I'm going to get this started and then I'm going to show you what it looks like. Alright, I've got that held in place with this screwdriver, and we've got our new clip in, and now our choke flap works after I fished it out, and it pivots on that. Now we got to get the actual diaphragm and all the other linkages back together. And this is the super fun part. I'm gonna see if I can get that to stay in place. Okay. Now, if we can just get this to get our vacuum line for the diaphragm in. Take this screwdriver and move this up a little bit. We'll try and get this to start like so. Alright, and then once all that falls into place, there's that. You want to take your screw that I showed you earlier, screw it back into the body of the carb. That'll get that. Sweet. Okay. I'm going to take this other linkage, stick it in there. Well, first let me stick it in this way. Top here. That choke's working, and we're just gonna get this started. Figure out which way it goes first. So we'll stick it in this slide here, and then if we tilt it back like so. Now we can get it to twist in. Right now I'm just getting it very stuck. Alright, let me get these linkages together and I'll show you how they go. Alright, I finally got this on. You want to take this arm, stick this in first, and have this pointing up like that to twist this in. Then you want to take your fast idle cam and move it on top. That way your choke flap can move all the way. Like so. And then that is our choke mechanism put back together. Well, we got one more arm. So, I put the other arm back in. That one's a lot easier. There's supposed to be a spring inside this diaphragm. Mine's missing it, but you stick it inside of there like so, and there's another one of those horseshoe clips that pushes down there inside the groove. Let's see if we can get that pushed down. These do not like to start. that just went? Fell down in there somewhere. Anyways, you get a clip inside of there. And we take our last little bit here. Take our accelerator pump rod on the other side, if I would put it on correctly. Stick it in there. Push that down. And then we get our dowel pin back through. And we'll be good to go. It should be. Yep. Now let's see if we can. I'm going to work on getting this dowel pin back together, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Alright. Now, I got our choke diaphragm put back together. Got our accelerator pump pushed together. We just took a screwdriver, pushed the dowel pin against the choke housing, pushed that in, lined that up, and now we got that function. And we got our choke. Last thing we want to do is replace. It's the wrong one. There we go. That's why I got both of these. I want to replace this inlet filter. Ours didn't have it. And then, very last thing we want is our plastic gasket for our inlet feed. That sits on there on that lip. It's supposed to. Okay. Maybe it's supposed to take this metal washer. Even though that plastic one was what came off of it. No, it's got to be the plastic one. Okay. So now, where's the front of this thing? In here. I'm going to disconnect this tube and get it out of the way. We'll stick both of these down in there. It's more like a crush washer. It sits down in there. And that paper filter. If we can get that to go. Let's do it this way. If I can get it out. Alright, got our crush washer in there. Filter in there. There we go. And that's how you hold your mount just right. And you screw that back on. We'll cinch them down with our wrenches. And we'll be good to go. That. Tighten there. Well, let me get that in position better. Hold our fuel feed tube where we want it. Stick our vacuum line for our choke diaphragm back on. There we go. Okay, there's that. And that's it. That's all of it put back together. I didn't put the new, what do you call that? Dowel pin for the accelerator pump. But that's it. Well, hopefully you learned something. We've got it back together, no extra pieces, so we'll get to see soon if it actually runs and if it's worth the time we spent cleaning it up and rebuilding it. I'm going to close this one with Philippians 4:6. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Reason I'm closing with that one, I personally have been struggling with anxiety, especially with this channel, putting this together and just in general. Maybe you have too, maybe this will help you out. We'll close real quick. And thanks again for watching Whitey Speed Shop. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Forgive us where we fail you. Thank you for another fun little video to make. I hope that you bless everyone who watched this video, and I hope we all learned something. Thanks again, and we hope to see you next time. Amen.